Sunday. That's right, wear some masks. Got a little pay-per-view thing going on. And I got a hell of an idea. Just a hell of an idea. You want me? I'm going to be in your backyard. Consider this an open invitation.
Imagine that. Me, Vince McMahon. Imagine that. Here I am on WCW television. How can that happen? Well, there's only one way. You see, it was just a matter of time before I, Vince McMahon, bought my competition. That's right. I own WCW.
It's your boy, the Nacho Man. I'm back. I know it's been a while since episode 1. No, I didn't give up. Long story short, I had to get a new job. Life happened. Past 4 to 6 weeks were really tough, but you know what? Getting back on track. Been working on this, trying to find new ways to just get the ball rolling with the new things coming in my life. But I want to say thank you to everyone who has been supporting me since day one. I hope you guys liked the last episode. I know it wasn't the best, but you know what? It was episode 1, and we got a lot to work on. We're going to get better over time, guys. I want to say a special shout out to my sponsors, Crafted Anomalies and Retro Tokyo Streetwear. Thank you guys for helping me after the last episode and continue to help me. I can't wait to continue to work with you guys, as well as some of the new sponsors. Just because I haven't been recording, that doesn't mean I've been networking, reaching out to new people, gotten into contact with some old friends, some new people. So I can't wait to talk to you guys and introduce you to some of my new friends and new faces that are going to be joining the BSP family. That we will continue to grow slowly but surely. Remember, boys and girls, once you're BSP for life. And if you haven't already, please go to Instagram, follow the Brandy Savage podcast, go on YouTube, like and subscribe. Same name, Brandy Savage podcast. Tell your friends and family and spread the word, please. All right. Today is it's going to be interesting to say the least. Never in my mind I thought I would go into this far in booking some type of dream match, fan fiction, whatever you want to call it. But today, guys, WCW versus WWE, Starrcade versus WrestleMania, a 2-day extravaganza with 2 different cards, all booked by me. This is my spin on a Monday Night Wars episode. I know everybody that does a podcast has talked about the Monday Night Wars, and of course, that's the time I started getting into wrestling. But I feel like you already heard this over and over again, so I want to do something different. I want to do something the BSP way. Because here on the BSP, we kick doors down and we punch motherfuckers in the throats. No, I'm just kidding. But, we want to be different. We want to stand out. I got this idea from Jim Cornette. Motherfucker. On one of his videos, on one of the 10,000 shoots that he does, he booked a WrestleMania versus WCW Starrcade, but he booked so horribly. He'd book like what a middle-aged white man from Kentucky would. It was good, but it could have been. So I was like, you know what? Let me give this a crack. Instead of going into detail about the Monday Night Wars and just copying and pasting Wikipedia, let's have some fun. As far as booking and the wrestlers I'm going to use on the WCW side, anyone from the Monday Nitro days. So anyone from 1995 till 2001 is eligible as far as WWF. Basically, the beginning of the Monday Night Wars. So, no, we won't see Andre the Giant versus Lex Luger. And we're not going to see, Bruno Sammartino and Dusty Rhodes. No. This is the 90s, guys. Okay? The hottest thing on television ever for wrestling. Speaking of Wikipedia, however, I am going to talk about WCW for a little bit. Just give you guys a little bit of backstory, the rise and fall of the company. I have a lot of listeners. When I mean a lot, I mean like 7 listeners who don't really know what WCW was and how big World Championship Wrestling was, especially in the 90s. Without WCW, WWF wouldn't have been as edgy and wouldn't have been as good as it was. WCW almost put WWF out of competition. You can't talk 90s wrestling without WCW. For a modern day fan, when they think of WCW, they're like, oh, Sting, Goldberg, Hulk Hogan. But Hulk Hogan was already a WWF person. You know what I mean? He just jumped ship because for whatever reason. But a lot of people don't know about the Lex Lugers and the Harlem Heats and the Steiner Bros. So I think I'm just going to dip in a little bit. Like I said, just talk about the rise and fall of the company, how Eric Bischoff came into play, and all that. Now listen here, baby. It's the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. And I'm here to tell you, when you come home after the long, hard working nights, you just want to come home, take a shower, get some food in your belly, kick your feet up, and open your favorite alcoholic beverage. But what about them longer days, them overtime days, them days where you put everything on the line? You just want to come home and release some stress. Well, baby, I'm here to tell you there's only one place, one person to help you with that. And that's my friend Neelis. So head on over to OnlyFans.com and we're going to get funky like a monkey, if you will. That's Neelis, NEILERSSS at OnlyFans.com. I'm going to hell for that. I can't believe I just did Dusty Rhodes impression. Lord Almighty. Alrighty. World Championship Wrestling, WCW, was the wrestling company owned by billionaire Ted Turner. If you don't know who Ted Turner is, he is the founder of CNN. He is the donor of $1 billion, $1 billion, that created the United Nations. He was the former co-owner of the Atlanta Braves and the Atlanta Hawks, just to name a few things. AKA, this motherfucker is rich. In 1989, Turner Broadcast Systems acquired the National Wrestling Alliance and the Jimmy Crockett Promotions and was changed to WCW. Over time, the WCW started gaining initial success, and in 1993, a guy by the name of Eric Bischoff, who started out in the company as a commentator, then executive producer, eventually became the senior vice president of the company, and that's when WCW got the wheels turning. Eric started getting more money funded into the company and was able to bring big names from other territories around the world. The biggest names he got to sign a contract with WCW? Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan, with the likes of Sting and other wrestlers like the Steiner Brothers, Arn Anderson, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, and eventually the Macho Man Randy Savage. Freak out, huh? The WCW was getting bigger and bigger each week. The company would run live events that would constantly sell out month after month after month after month. With Bischoff's confidence in his company as well as a stacked roster, WCW Monday Nitro debuted on September 4th, 1995, which was designed to compete against WWE's Monday Night Raw. Unlike Raw, WCW Nitro was aired live and would air early at times on purpose to gain more fans into watching their show rather than their rivals. With real-life storylines and debuts like Lex Luger and the creation of NWO, Bischoff's WCW Monday Nitro would go on and beat WWE in the ratings for 83 consecutive weeks. With the revival of Sting's gimmicks, superstars like DDP and Goldberg coming into fruition, it seemed possible that WCW was going to eventually put WWE out of business. Can you believe that? In 1997, the wrestling world was shaken to its core. Bret Hart was the victim of the infamous Montreal Screwjob, where he unwillingly dropped the WWF Championship to HBK Shawn Michaels when the referee was forced to ring the bell by Vince McMahon. Bret was allegedly defeated by his own wrestling move, the sharpshooter. If you could see in the video, Bret clearly never tapped out, and in this day is considered one of the biggest events in wrestling history. Vince, knowing Bret was going to jump ship and sign with WCW under Eric Bischoff, needed Bret to drop that title on the last day of his contract. Due to backstage politics between the Hitman and HBK, Bret refused to do business, and Vince had no choice but to screw Bret. Vince said he needed to protect his company, who was losing the battle to WCW in the Monday Night War ratings. The last thing Vince needed was for Bret to show up on enemy lines with his company's championship belt. Shout out to Alundra Blaze. In my honest opinion, the Montreal Screwjob was the turning point of the Monday Night War. For all my U.S. history buffs, this was the Battle of Saratoga for WWF. It may not have seemed on paper, but this would lead to the creation of one of the biggest heels of all time. Vince Kennedy McMahon on TV was created and began to see on Raw weekly. Vince's character eventually gave birth to one of the most famous storylines of all time, with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Their match on Raw on April 13th, 1998 would finally end WCW's 83 consecutive weeks of the ratings battle. Vince McMahon was known for producing some of his best work with creations such as Stone Cold, The Rock, D-Generation X, Mankind, Kane, an updated version of The Undertaker, The Hardy Boys, Edge, Christian, Kurt Angle, and much more in the era we all know and love and miss today, the Attitude Era. The two companies remained competitive throughout the majority of 1998, but by 1999, WCW started to collapse. Turmoil within the company's backstage and locker room started to bleed into the weekly shows of Nitro and 1998's creation, Thunder. They were no match for the giant WWF had become. Eventually, WCW's roster was thin, and the majority of them started signing with WWF. After a failed merger between AOL and Time Warner, and an unsuccessful attempt by Eric Bischoff and Jerry Jarrett, and suitors purchasing the company, WCW was bought out by Vince McMahon, and WCW aired its last episode of Monday Nitro on March 26, 2001. It was said Ted Turner lost about $8 billion in the merger between AOL and Time Warner. $8 billion. Do you know how much WWE acquired WCW for? $4.2 million. You want to do math? 8 million billion minus 4.2 million is $7,995,800,000. Wow. A tragedy indeed. Okay. For Starrcade, night 1, we have Diamond Dallas Page versus Mick Foley, Dudley Boys versus Harlem Heat, X-Pac, Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, Edge and Christian versus Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and Eddie Guerrero in a War Games match. We have Undertaker versus Sting. And in the main event, we have The Rock versus Goldberg. For night 2, we have WrestleMania. And it's Kane versus the Macho Man Randy Savage, Hardy Boys versus the Steiner Bros, Kurt Angle versus Lex Luger, Shawn Michaels and Triple H versus Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, Chris Jericho with Vincent Kennedy McMahon versus Bret Hart with Eric Bischoff, and in the main event we have Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Alright guys, this is going to be really interesting. I really aimed for matches that never happened before. I know there's probably 2 on here that probably actually did, but we're going to redo them. We're going to pretend they never happened. As far as format, I'm going to go ahead and I will name the match. I'll kind of give in a detail how I think it would go. Of course, the finish, who wins. For some of the more bigger fights on here towards the end of the card, I'm going to go actually hold for hold, move for move, and I'm going to, I guess you could say, commentate it. I'm going to lay it out for you word for word, real fan fiction like. So, all right, guys, let's just get started. For the first matchup, we have Diamond Dallas Page versus Mick Foley. Okay, Mick Foley versus Diamond Dallas Page in a false count anywhere match to open up Starrcade. It's the battle of the two underdogs. Two guys who were told that they were too old or they didn't look the part. These two guys were great workers and showed extreme dedication to their respective companies, both eventually becoming world champions. This type of match is going to give Mick Foley the early advantage, him being the hardcore legend under personas like Cactus Jack. If you're asking which carnation of Mick Foley I have here, I'm going to say just regular Mick Foley, kind of like the one you've seen at WrestleMania 2000 or 22. For DDP, I mean, you get to choose. I like long hair, blue jeans, Dally. That's my favorite, but it doesn't matter. This match is definitely a brawl. This match happens everywhere but the ring for the most part. We seem to be taking the fight to the outside of the ring, over the barrier, through the backstage area, and eventually on the stage. This match will highlight that once again that Mick Foley is the king of bumps, as he takes one too many and loses to DDP via a diamond cutter off the stage and into a pair of tables. Great way to start off the Battle of Supremacy here at Starrcade. Winner, Diamond Dallas Page. Bang! Speaking of tables, we get one of the most decorated tag teams in the Dudley Boys taking on Harlem Heat. I was debating if I wanted to put Booker T in a singles match or with his brother, but I got him as a unit at the end of the day. And as I quote, "Don't hate the player, hate the game." This one's a toss-up for me. As much as I wanted to use tables for this match, instead I was like, you know what? Let's do a traditional tag team match. And of course, does not disappoint. If everyone makes you feel better, we'll have Devon go through an announcer's table. If that makes everyone feel better. But I think Harlem Heat looks a little more dominant in this match. It's a little back and forth, but towards the end, a little miscommunication by the brothers cost them, and Stevie Ray eats a 3D, and the Dudley Boys win via pinfall. Winner of the match, Dudley Boys. Match number 3, members of DX, X-Pac, Billy Gunn, and Road Dogg with Edge and Christian versus members of the Four Horsemen, Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and with Eddie Guerrero in a War Games match. This match is the best example of me not trying to forget anyone, but unfortunately that's impossible. I originally had cruiserweights in this match, but WWF didn't really have a strong division until after WCW folded. Towards the end of this episode, I will do honorable mentions and matches I could have possibly done. But given the concept of this being a Fantasy 2-day event, I wanted to also keep it as real as possible at the same time and not have like 2 12-hour days. This isn't Coachella, this is wrestling. Okay, to start the match, we got Benoit starting out for WCW and Edge for WWF. Typical War Game start. These guys start mauling each other when the bell rings. They go on tour around the cage, in both rings, both taking nasty shots and bumps onto the steel structure. However, DX wins the coin toss and have the advantage, so they send in Billy Gunn. Edge and Billy double team on Benoit, and then in comes the enforcer, Arn Anderson. Benoit catches his breath in the corner as Arn Anderson cleans house with a few clotheslines and a big backdrop to Billy Gunn. I have the Horseman working babyface in this match, so the crowd pops with every Horseman entry. Christian comes in, and the number advantage once again goes in favor of WWF. Then the Iceman, Dean Malenko, comes in next with intentions to even the odds, but his team is banged up already, and it becomes a 3-on-1 attack. Then Road Dogg struts in and joins in on the fun. Team WWF looks like they have the victory within reach. Then the 16-time world champion comes in and starts laying hell on all the members of the opposing team. Adrenaline starts kicking in for the Horsemen, and now the tide has turned. X-Pac, the final member for Team WWF, comes in and tries to give his team that last push before sudden death. Then the final participant, Eddie Guerrero, comes in, and the match beyond officially begins. Both teams spread across the two rings are at full battle, trying to win for their respective companies. Everybody's looking for the finish to end the match. We see Edge hit a spear. Benoit somehow hits a flying headbutt off the top rope. Soon after, X-Pac hits an X-Factor on him. But it isn't enough to put Benoit away. Billy Gunn then looks for a Famouser on Eddie, but can't get that 3 count either. Frustration starts to boil over, and Billy runs into an eye poke by Flair and walks blinded into a DDT by Double A, and Team WCW wins the War Games match. What an intense battle and a treat for all in attendance. The Four Horsemen and Eddie Guerrero all stand in the center of the ring celebrating their hard-earned win. Winners of the match, the Four Horsemen and Eddie Guerrero. Match 4. Co-main event for Starrcade, The Undertaker versus Sting. The Icon, the Phenom. Two of the best to ever do it. Both veterans and the backbone to both of the places they call home. They both can take charge and put the load on their backs, and also take a step back and let the people around them shine. They deserve to be the main event, but both men insist they share the spotlight with the other guys. Sting comes out first to his Crow theme and sets the mood for the match. Sting knows this one's going to be special. He stands in the corner and awaits his destiny. The bell tolls twice. Lights go out. There's no druids, but Taker and his chilling music plays as he starts walking down the ring, not once breaking eye contact with Stinger. The bell rings and they stare at each other from a distance. Taker gestures him the throat slash and even gives out a little grin. Sting follows up with an emphatic "Woo!" And here we go. They both start exchanging blows in the center of the ring. Taker with the advantage throws Sting into the corner and starts unloading. The ref breaks them up and Taker gets into the referee's face. He turns around and it's Sting's turn. He gets Taker into the corner and hits his signature strikes into the corner. Right hand, then backhand. Right, back, right, back. Then the ref breaks them up and Sting backs up and goes for the Stinger splash right away, but misses. He turns around and it runs into a running boot by Taker. Taker gets on his knees and starts choking Sting. He smothers his forearm across Stinger's face and immediately wipes a handful of paint off. He lifts him up and hits him with a back elbow. Sting goes down on one knee. Taker looks to slow the match down, but Sting is looking to strike hard, strike often. He Irish whips Taker into the rope and a shoulder block, followed by another shoulder block. But Taker won't stay down. Taker stunned against the rope. Sting goes for a clothesline but gets back body dropped onto the ringside floor. Taker here looks to take the fight to the opponent, but he runs to the ropes and flies to the outside of the ring, landing on Sting. Both men crash down on the floor, but Taker doesn't want this match to end via double countout, so he gets up before Sting and throws him back into the squared circle. He knows it's not enough to put him away, but Taker still goes for a pin, and to nobody's surprise, Sting kicks out at 2. He then begins to put Sting into a grounded sleeper hold. Sting, knowing he's got to turn the tide to get his adrenaline going, with a chance from the crowd, he makes his way to the feet. Two body shots land on Taker, and he breaks the hold. Taker once again against the ropes. Sting whips him to the other side, and they both run towards each other. Taker reverses Sting's flying clothesline into a running DDT. The ref starts the count again, and Taker at 7 gets up. He lifts Sting's up, and Taker says, "It's time for old school." He wraps Sting's arm and climbs all the way to the top rope. He walks a few feet and connects the attack right on Sting's right shoulder. Taker says this is it and calls for the chokeslam. He gets Sting into the air, and then Sting counters and goes for the Scorpion Death Drop, but Taker turns around and hits Sting with a clothesline. Sting gets right back up, and Taker throws Sting over his shoulders and goes for a snake eyes. He connects and tries to go for the running boot one more time, but Sting moves out the way, and Taker's legs hangs on top of the turnbuckle. He lifts his leg up, and when he turns around, Stinger Splash connects onto Taker, and Sting starts to beat his chest. Sting walks towards Taker and lifts a leg, signaling the Scorpion Deathlock. And then Undertaker leans forward and looks Sting dead in the eye. Sting starts to smile and both start to exchange blows again in the middle of the ring. Taker goes down on one knee but hits Sting with a match-saving uppercut. Sting bounces off the ropes and Taker connects with the chokeslam, hooks the leg, 1-2, and Sting kicks out. Taker gets up and says, "For real, this end is near." Taker stalks Sting as he starts to get up, and when Sting turns around, we gotta give a special shout out to our sponsor. I'm just fucking with you. Taker lifts Sting up for the tombstone, and when he gets up, Sting reverses, pushing his weight back, and Sting connects with a Scorpion Death Drop. He crawls on top of Taker and goes for the pin. 1, 2, 3. Sting beats The Undertaker in an instant classic at Starrcade. You guys, this match was hard to call. I didn't know who I wanted to win in this match. They are both so evenly matched and played a big part in my childhood. I didn't know how this would end up. That being said, the match taking place at Starrcade, Taker being in enemy territory, does business, and Sting goes out on top. Both these guys worked the match babyface. And also, I want to point out, since this match was at Starrcade, Taker doesn't break his streak and is still undefeated for WrestleManias to come. Alright? So cut me some fucking slack. This match was one for the ages and worth the wait. Both men shake hands and embrace in a quick hug, and now it's time for the main event. Your winner of the match, Sting! Alright, match number 5, the main event for Starrcade, night 1 of our fantasy show. We have The Rock versus Goldberg. I know this match has already happened in real life, but I wanted to do the match the right way. When this match took place, it was after WrestleMania 19 at the Backlash pay-per-view. The Rock was working heel as his Hollywood persona and just retired Stone Cold. Goldberg, coming into WWE after sitting out for almost a year and a half after WCW went under, was looking to start his career under Vince as dominant as he once was. This match sucked in my opinion. Everyone knew that Rock was possibly going to leave, so Goldberg was the clear favorite in that match. The star power carried their match, but in my honest opinion, it cracks top 10 most overhyped matches in history. Not to shit on these two guys, they are some of the biggest names ever in the world of professional wrestling, but they had no chemistry whatsoever. So here, in my fantasy world, let's just pretend that never happened. This is the first time they two have ever met. Just like the last match, these guys are both working babyface. And when I mean last match, I mean Sting and Taker. This is definitely Goldberg's biggest challenge yet. The bell rings and the main event is underway. And in 4 minutes, The Rock does business and Goldberg beats him. Spear, jackhammer, 1, 2, 3. You guys, Goldberg had the most dominant run in the shortest amount of time. He was 173-0. 173. His first loss came from a fucking taser gun that they literally had to fucking shoot Goldberg for him to lose. This is the way this match should have gone. I know I said to forget that they met in real life, but admit it, there was no chemistry there and there's no chemistry here. You could be mad all you want and say I wasted the main event for Starrcade over this, but guys, this is my show. Ha! No, I'm just kidding. But this is what had to happen. There was no match. The Rock is no match for Goldberg. Winner of this match, Goldberg. And this is how Starrcade ends. Alright, WrestleMania. Match number 1. Kane versus the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Macho Man comes home in this one-of-a-kind exhibition against Kane. Something told me to add a stipulation to this match, but I think Randy trying to keep Kane down will be enough to entertain the audience. I envision Kane from his first year here fighting against Randy Savage in his most flashiest attire yet. I see Kane dominating early on until Randy catches some steam and drops Kane to his feet. I see Macho hitting 2 elbow drops, but it isn't enough to put the Big Red Machine down. Kane goes over strong with 1 Tombstone Pile Driver. Winner of the first match of WrestleMania, the Big Red Machine, Kane. And speaking of flashy, if you're looking for some great tie-dye apparel, go on Instagram and follow MV Trips Tie-Dye Apparel at MVTrips_T.D.A. My friend Melissa has great tie-dye apparel that she does, custom made. On her Instagram page, she has a link to her Etsy, as well as her TikTok, which has over 200,000 followers. So this is the real deal, guys. I had bought some merchandise the other day, and I can't tell you how much I love it. I took so many photos wearing my tie-dye. I can't wait to order more. So you want to get your inner dude love on, head on over to MVTrips_T.D.A on Instagram and let her know that Brandon sent you. Okay? Match number 3. Kurt Angle versus Lex Luger. I think out of all the matches, this one's going to be a sleeper. We have the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle, who, by the way, in case you haven't heard, won those medals with a broken friggin' neck, against the total package Lex Luger. Lex may be the more tenured veteran, but Kurt's natural skills for the squared circle gives him the betting favorite to win this match. I see the match starting out competitive, right away on their feet. Kurt wants to keep Lex grounded as much as possible, trying to penalize that ankle, keep him on the ground. Throughout the match, Kurt keeps the match at a slow pace, and it's just putting a beating on Lex. Kurt just can't seem to find what's going to make Lex give up, though. His frustration starts to get to him, and Luger starts to get hot. He brings the fight to Kurt, and it is a toss-up at this point. Kurt eventually goes for the angle slam after Lex breaks out of the angle lock, and when Kurt lifts Luger up, Lex reverses and picks Kurt up for the torture rack. Having nowhere to go, being in the middle of the ring, Kurt passes out to the torture rack, and the total package, Lex Luger, picks up a hard-fought win. On a side note, I really believe Lex Luger was underappreciated as a pro wrestler. There's a dark cloud over him when it comes to Miss Elizabeth and drugs, but I don't think he deserves the dark clouds that follow him to this day. Put Lex Luger in the Hall of Fame, Vince. Don't be a jackass. Winner of the match, Lex Luger. Match number 4. We have Shawn Michaels and Triple H versus Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. Members of the Clique go at it in a battle of faction supremacy. The NWO versus D-Generation X. Both major kindles in the fire that started the Monday Night War, these two look to take the bragging rights for their respective companies. It's all love, though, as it's no secret everyone in this ring is best friends with each other. This match starts off as a professional exhibition, but slowly starts getting a little more aggressive and a little more aggressive before it ends up being a full-on brawl. The referee is having a tough time trying to keep everyone in order as the fight starts to spread outside the ring. After taking an ugly bump on his knee, Triple H starts to become less mobile and the outsiders smell blood. While Hunter lays in pain in the middle of the ring, Hall and Nash gang up on HBK on the outside and jackknife powerbombs Shawn through the Spanish announce table. They both begin to stalk Triple H from the outside and begin what seems to be the end. Clearly, the outsiders have this match won, but they want to put an exclamation point on the victory, so Scott Hall goes outside for a sledgehammer. Mocking Triple H with the sledgehammer in hand, Scott takes a little too much time, and when he goes for the kill, Hunter ducks and Kevin Nash gets his face smashed and goes over the top rope. Scott, panicking about what he just did, he turns around and is greeted by a sweet chin music and then a pedigree from DX. Triple H and Shawn Michaels pick up the win for WWF and earn bragging rights against their best friends. Winners of the match, Shawn Michaels and Triple H. In the co-main event, we have Chris Jericho with Vince McMahon in his corner versus Bret the Hitman Hart with Eric Bischoff in his corner. Disclaimer, this match you're about to hear is for the sole purposes of fantasy booking. In no way, shape, or form this is to be taken seriously, and this is a reminder that this is make-believe, so take it with a grain of salt. After a career-ending injury and the death of his brother, Owen, Bret is now retired and lives in Canada. Eric Bischoff, once the senior vice president and one of the biggest wrestling companies in sports entertainment, is now living his life in the shadows, living in shame. Sees the opportunity of a lifetime here and convinces Bret to let him work with him, and together they can take back what belongs to them. Eric says Vince is a monster that needs to be put down, and he's the guy to help him do it. He says Jericho is just a washed-up cruiserweight, and even deep down, Vince isn't sure Chris can get the job done. For Y2J Chris Jericho, this is no doubt the biggest match of his life. Fellow Canadian and former student of the legendary Hart Dungeon, it's safe to say these two are familiar with each other. Once a hero for Chris, now an enemy, Chris understands what can come out of this for him if he manages to pull a win off the Hitman. Jericho catches on about Bischoff and threatens to annihilate him if he gets in the way. But Vince, on the other hand, wants Eric to be at ringside for this match. He wants Eric to see Bret be put down like the old dog he really is. Eric then makes a counter offer that shakes the wrestling universe. Eric proposes that if Bret wins, he gets 51% ownership of the WWF. He also says if Bret wins, as owner, he will grant Bret a match with Vince inside a steel cage. Vince, upset with the audacity of Eric to put him on the spot, accepts Eric's offer. But Vince says if he wins, Bret and Eric are banned from the world of pro wrestling and their legacies are to be wiped away, tarnished, gone, deleted forever. Bret is all business walking into his first WrestleMania since 1997. He's in full ring gear and never did he look better. Chris, an already established player in the WWF, walks into the ring as confident, as cocky as he will ever be. Knowing what this can do for his career, Vince and Eric are both ringside for this match, and the match is underway. Jericho asks for a finger lock, but kicks Bret in the stomach and gets a headlock. He seesaws on one knee and judo flips Bret. Bret locks his legs around Jericho's neck, and Jericho releases. They both get on their feet and dish and arm drag off each other, and both go for a drop kick, and their feet both push off against each other. They look up at each other and collect their thoughts. Bret knows he's been out of the game for a bit, and Jericho knows he's got to be a technician tonight if he plans on winning. They continue on outworking each other with holds and grapples until Jericho strikes first and goes for a bulldog. He goes for the lion salt and looks to finish early. He connects and goes for the pin, but Bret kicks out at 2. Jericho quickly then grabs the feet and turns Bret over. An alert hitman, Jericho can only get 75% of that hold, and Bret grabs the ropes. Jericho, looking to keep the pace fast, runs the ropes, and Bret catches him with a double leg takedown. Bret then applies a sharpshooter on Jericho, but Jericho grabs the ropes 10 seconds in. Bret waits till 4 to release, and while the referee is in Bret's face, Jericho attacks Bret from behind with the forearm smash. Jericho begins to prey on Bret with conviction. Bret ring rust seems to be showing as his endurance is low, struggling to come at Y2J with any offense. Jericho begins to chop on Bret in the corner and then slaps Bret in the face. An angry Bret throws Chris Jericho onto the corner and begins to unload on him. Bret then raises Jericho into a superplex position on the top turnbuckle. Jericho tries to kick Bret off twice, but Bret then stuns Jericho with a slap of his own. Bret then climbs the rope and hits Jericho with a king-size superplex. Bret crawls to Jericho and goes for the pin. That's when Vince climbs to the apron and begins to distract the referee. It's enough time for Jericho to kick out once the referee begins to count. Bret then strolls on over to the side where Vince is and threatens to spit on him once again. Vince backs off a good 15 feet, and when Bret turns around, he walks into a Tiger Bomb suplex, and Jericho goes for the pin. Bret kicks out. Jericho, frustrated, then throws Bret over the top rope where Bischoff is. When Jericho rolls out, Bret desperately Irish whips Jericho into the steel steps. An irritated Vince McMahon then grabs a steel chair and walks towards Bret. The ref slides outside the ring and confronts Vince. Jericho capitalizes on a distracted referee and pushes Bret into Bischoff, and Bischoff eats the ringside post face first. Jericho throws Bret back into the ring, and when he enters, Bret rolled him for a quick 3, but Y2J kicks out. Bret then grabs Chris and goes for a piledriver. He connects and then walks to Jericho's feet and goes for the sharpshooter. He looks right into Vince's soul while he has it locked in. Vince begins to tell Jericho to not tap out, but Jericho seems so close to giving up. Vince once again goes to the apron and the referee again confronts Vince. The crowd begins to boo heavily as Jericho starts to tap. Bret this time quickly breaks the hold and grabs Vince, but the ref pulls them apart. With the ref back turned, Jericho low blows both the ref and Bret. The ref fall into the corner and Vince rushes in with a chair. Both Vince and Jericho begin to attack Bret, and then Bischoff comes in with a chair of his own and cracks Jericho in the back. He drops the chair and he begins to get in a brawl with Vince. The crowd starts going crazy as they roll around the ring. Bret then grabs Vince and tosses him across the ring. Bret grabs the steel chair, and it's finally time for Bret to unleash hell on his former boss. Eric looks up at Bret with a heavy grin and knows what's about to happen. The whole world knows what's about to happen. So we think. Bret then turns around and hits Bischoff with a chair. Everyone in the arena is shocked. Jericho is frozen and Vince is confused. Bret then tells Eric it's all his fault. Had he not tried to lure Bret away from the WWF, he would have never been screwed. Montreal would have never happened and would have not had to live a life of embarrassment and shame. He said that WCW was a shit show and he should have never gone there. From the corner, the ref sees Bret standing in the middle of the ring with a chair. Vince points at Bret and the ref rings the bell. As a result of disqualification, Chris Jericho is your winner. Vince then walks over to Bret, and when he gets close, Bret turns around and tells Vince, "I'm not done with you. I'm going to give you what you deserve as well." Vince then hesitates and tries to roll out and escape before he goes all the way. But once before he rolls out, Jericho grabs Vince by the ankle. The crowd pops. Jericho knows deep down Vince did Bret wrong, and no matter what Bret is to him, Bret, one thing for sure, is still a hero. He wants to help Bret bring closure to this. Bret then drops the chair and begins to unload on his former boss. With tears in his eyes, Bret doesn't stop throwing punches, and Vince is starting to fade away. Bret then lifts Vince's somewhat lifeless body and tells him, "That was for me, and this one's for Owen." Bret then hits a pile driver on Vince on top of the steel chair. Bret is overcome with emotion and can finally breathe. He gets up, walks around the ring, and simply says goodbye. He walks up the ramp where Jericho awaits, and they both walk back into Gorilla together. In Bret's eyes, his legacy will always be remembered by the fans, and Vince can do all he wants, but the Hitman will live forever. Winners of the match, Chris Jericho with Vince McMahon. Before we get to the main event, I just want to give a special shout out once again to Crafted Anomalies on Instagram. If you guys haven't yet, go ahead and follow and like them. Get yourself a coffee cup or a water bottle customized by my cousin Chelsea. She has great colors and great combinations for you at a reasonable price. So head on over to Crafted Anomalies on Instagram, as well as checking out Tokyo Streetwear on Instagram. My friend Miguel, if you need anything like a shirt or a logo for your shirt or for, your own podcast or whatever, go on over to his page and follow him as well. Main event time. Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus Stone Cold Steve Austin in a no disqualification match. Hogan, Austin. The biggest singles match to never happen. You know who they both are. They need no introduction. In my opinion, 2/4 of the Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling. This match is no disqualification because, as I stand by my word, saying Hogan is one of the best to ever do it, let's be honest, he's not really a good in-ring performer, brother. He's the best at working with the crowd and having them dictate the match. But I think a top guy from an indie show can beat Hogan in a shoot match. Austin, on the other hand, injury after injury to his knee and his neck have him limited and unathletic as he once was. When the match starts, Austin comes out hot, swinging for the fences, stopping a mud hole in Hogan's ass. He's got Hogan in the clinches early on. Hogan exits the ring and starts to walk up the ramp. Austin chases him down and continues to lay a beating on Hogan. He throws him into the ring, and when Austin gets in, he is met with a low blow by Hogan. Hulk then begins to lay an assault on Austin all around the ring. He goes for a steel chair and starts working on Austin's leg. He then takes his infamous weightlifting belt off and begins to smack Austin in the back. Hogan looks at the crowd and lets them know he's in charge. He's the guy. Now, then, and forever. When he lifts Austin, Stone Cold starts throwing rights and gets Hogan against the ropes. He Irish whips Hogan and connects the Luthes press on him. He runs the ropes and drops a forearm on a grounded Hogan. Austin then goes outside and starts cleaning the Spanish announce table off. He pulls Hogan out by the feet and is greeted by a Hogan right hand. Austin leans against the table and Hogan starts to climb the announce table. When he lifts Stone Cold up, Austin smacks Hogan's hands down and goes for the stunner, but Hogan reverses it and kicks Austin once again in the groin. Second low blow of the night. He then puts Austin in position for a powerbomb and power drives Austin into the Spanish announce table neck first. Everyone knows of Austin's neck problems, and Hogan is going to do whatever he needs to win arguably the biggest match of his career. He struggles to get Austin back into the ring, but eventually does. Hogan says the end is near, and calls for the leg drop, and proceeds to run the ropes. He connects, goes for the pin, 1, 2, and Austin somehow kicks out. Frustrated, Hogan begins to stomp on Austin's knee. Then the crowd begins to boo him at the point where it's deafening. He then starts to mock his old persona and begins to pose. He starts laughing and begins to shake his hands in place like he's hulking up. Kind of looks similar to the end of Scarface when Tony Montana is talking to the guys. Then the crowd pops loud. He turns around and there's Stone Cold Steve Austin with 2 middle fingers greeting Hogan right in the face. Petrified by what's in front of him, Austin cashes in his receipts and kicks Hogan right where the sun don't shine. Hogan in tears drops on one knee and begins to stumble all around the ring. When he reaches the center, Austin hits him with the Stone Cold Stunner and picks up the win via pinfall. 1, 2, 3. Austin 316 runs wild, and wrestling fans can now say Stone Cold Steve Austin is the best to ever do it. WWF wins the battle of supremacy over WCW. Well, that's it for today's episode, guys. I hope you really enjoyed it. Let me know if you're interested in having me do something else like this again. Make sure to like and subscribe here on YouTube. Add the Instagram page at the Brandy Savage Podcast if you haven't already. I got a lot of great content planned for this podcast. I know for sure we're going to do a women's episode. We're going to talk about women's wrestling, the history of it, why it's very important today. We're going to go extreme. We're going to talk about ECW. And mostly, we're going to dip into death matches, which is something relatively new for me still. Over the past 2-3 years, I've barely been getting into, these really, really hardcore matches. So I'd like to dip into that a little more. But next episode, I want to step away from WWE and enter the Forbidden Door. We're going all in with All Elite Wrestling next episode. I want to talk about my favorite matches and feuds, what I thought about the possibility of another big-time company when rumors were starting to go around. I also want to talk about the impact Chris Jericho had making AEW a reality, Tony Khan, the relationship with Impact and New Japan Pro Wrestling, Mr. Brody Lee, the women of All Elite, and of course, how do we talk about AEW without talking about the Elite, the Elite. till next time, guys. See you around. Motherfucker.